There are 28 conference including you.
So folks can refer to our package services to begin a conversation about services engagement. Pricing, as it's fixed, is therefore around the deliverables of service rather than purely time and materials. So the questions we'll have with the customers is more around what the
mute on
the list rather than a consultant engineer on site for a number of days. We've been developing these packages now for the last years or so, and they're aligned to our product roadmap. So clearly, our intention is to put together a range of services that help to sell F5 equipment to our customers, and therefore the alignment with the actual roadmaps, both the way today and where they're going in the future, is key to how we develop those services. And they're also focused on some of the industry's trends, so where, for example, other market factors may influence. So a really good example would be Cisco, definitely the AD market. Then that provides us an opportunity to put together a service that helps our customers make, and I'll touch upon that a little bit later on. Now, these packages can be delivered by ourselves in F5, but they can also be delivered by resources in the channel, or as a combination of a joint effort between us. So they are flexible to you and can be delivered either by yourselves in total or with us. It's very open. So moving on from that, this is really cover a whole range of capabilities, and you've seen this before. You may not. No surprise to see that we have a methodology attached to the way that we develop our services, and that methodology is what we AMO, which is architect, implement, maintain, and optimize. I suspect that some of you in the chat also have your own methodologies that you use in helping to position services that you place to your customers, and it's in line with industry standard. And the reason we put it in line with industry standard is so that when we get into joint engagements, it's very clear for our customers, and it's very clear for yourselves to understand which services fit into which elements of the methodology. And then we will do is to help to position each of the services, so we can aim why services will fit into each of the individual elements of our methodology. And then what you'll find we then do is, when we're designing our services, then they also fit underneath each of those individual elements. Now, some services are fairly obvious about where they fit. It's pretty straightforward. Some, as always, will be slightly grey area in that they can possibly be, both architecture and implementation. They could be both maintained and optimized. What we do is we will decide the area it fits into based on the majority of the work that's going to be out under that particular service. So what I'm going to do now is just going to take you through for the types of service. I will add before I move on is that within this portfolio of services, it's certainly not static. So what you'll see if you watch our portfolio, that it is adapted constantly. As I said, in line with the roadmap and hot areas for our customers. You'll see us adding new services, adapting the services that exist, and then you'll see us taking some of those services away as well and retiring them as the timescales dictate. I wanted to talk about some of the services, and the first one I'm going to mention is around upgrades to our platforms. There's some statistics here in terms of why it's a good thing for us to have our customers move toward our new TMOS platforms. So over the last 18 months, we've moved towards version 11, and you'll also be aware that recently we've announced a whole new range of technical appliances that have been released to the customers as well. So at the moment, tech is a really hot tip with our customers. Something that our own sales force is doing across our installed customer base right now, and we're looking at customers move from version 10, or in some cases even version 9, up to version 11. And we've put some itself, and to help them implement any new devices that they require in order to take advantage of the new version of TMOS. So you can position these services as well with your customers. You can implement those services if you have the capabilities to do so. So you have some assessment services. Assessment services basically tell the customer, this is the steps and the actions you're going to need to take to move from, let's say, version 10 to version 11, and how you need to prepare to do that. And it's relatively simple. In some implementations of our clients, it can be quite complex. So it very quickly tells the customer what sort of action to take, what kind of risks they face, and helps them to prepare for the migration. And that serves as a start and a stop at assessment, so it doesn't provide the customer the actual upgrade. It just tells them what they will need to do. So it's a planner assessment. And they also have the upgrade service itself, again, a fixed price piece of work that says the customer will come in with our engineers, or you will as the channel partner, and perform an upgrade service. So that's an activity itself. And we all have a range of implementation services based on the appliances that they purchase parallel to actually performing upgrade service. So the way this can be positioned is that decide from a channel perspective that you have the capabilities and the resources to perform all these services, or they co-deliver these with F5 professional services in. An example would be that you commission the F5 professional services to do the upgrade assessment, but you perform the actual upgrade yourselves. So this is a good example of how we can work together as to actually get the customer where we'd like them to be. For the upgrade side, now the other migration services we have are competitive migrations. Now you'll see, we've had announcements, as I mentioned, around Cisco moving out of the ADC market. There are uncertainties at the moment around Brocade and their future in the ADC market. We know that many customers are talking about replacement of their Juniper boxes, for example. So we've developed packages that help customers in where we approach the upgrade service, but we can also help customers migrate off the competitive appliances and onto F5. So when the sales forces are with them and looking for a competitive takeout, then these packages are designed to way for the customers and make it simple for them to make a buying decision that moves them off the hardware right now. And do in terms of this particular migration service, again, is that we'll provide them a process that takes them all the way from planning through to the actual migration itself. So it's different to the way we approach the upgrade service. This completes the full pathway, if you like, through to actually the replacement. And that includes transfer to the customer options, some technical teams in terms of what they need to know and the implementation they may have. They may be existing F5 users, they may be new to F5. But us our sales forces in getting more traction and gaining more market share when it comes to F5. Again, these are either by yourselves or ourselves at F5 or as a co-delivery. Those have been very popular with our sales force right now, and we're seeing a lot of traction with competitive migration services. Now, as well as the obvious implementation type services, we also have services that are really focused on helping customers maintain a full health of their installed base. So, one popular service we have out there right now is something called the Proactive Assessment. And what the assessment does is it's a very detailed review of the installed HA pair. So it's packaged and priced terms of an HA pair, and it's going to have multiple HA pairs. And then if you get into large installations, then either a number of practice assessments can add have a rolling assessment program through where they have a fixed number of assessments and they take a sample of the HA pairs and proactively assess, particularly if they have form configurations that are repeatable across their installed base. Now, proactive assessment, as in the title, is a detailed health check. The intention of this really is to help them optimise application access, the throughput, and help not best practices, and therefore avoid unplanned downtime and identify any particular technical gaps or any areas where they have issues that they'll need to close. And of course, what we're looking for not is the customer satisfaction in terms of the way that the hardware and the software is working, but also looking for opportunities to engage in services that help the customer with any of the technical gaps that they find. Effectively, we all the latest release and the feature views. We look at any of the hotfixes that may not have been applied yet to that customer. The general health areas come OS, architecture, security, availability and performance of that HA pair. And we'll also look at the way that they will handle incident problem management. So, for example, from a best practice perspective, do they understand how to raise tickets for the F5 support centre? Do they understand how to best troubleshoot those potential problems and how to provide into our support so that if they do hit issues, then they're resolved in a normal way. What I found, they're given a comprehensive report that identifies the technical gaps or the best practice gaps and make suggestions on how those gaps can be closed. And of course, as I said earlier, the intention is then that the customer follows on with our help on their time to actually close those technical gaps down. So it can lead to some very good homework for services. It can also lead to a technical refresh opportunity if the technical gaps are such that the customer decides the best course is to upgrade. That's extremely popular right now. It's also popular with Salesforce as well, as I mentioned before, for obvious reasons. Some of the newer services we have, I'll just quickly mention, and you're very aware that F5 is playing in security space right now, and services we've developed in conjunction with some of our specialised security places to help customers understand the vulnerability status that they have any one time. So there are a number of known vulnerabilities out there that the security bodies and companies make us aware of. Some are very well known, some of them are less well known. There's normally, I think at this time, there's around about 107 or 108 known vulnerabilities, and those change obviously all the time. Our customers may have a SIEM installed, they may not have it configured in order to address all the vulnerabilities that they possibly can. And that service is really about, it's about helping our customers utilize our ASM product, tool as capability, and therefore positions F5 strongly as a security with our customers as their preferred supplier of security technology. So this vulnerability scan will do is it performs a scan of the customer's web applications, and the fixed price version will look at web applications for the customer, examine those web applications, look at the vulnerabilities that it has, and produce a detailed report about what vulnerabilities are. And if anybody's ever seen a typical vulnerability scan report, it is War and Peace. It is volumes of data, and really not so useful to a customer. It will take them a long time, a lot of manual effort to sift through that report, to try out what's important to them and need to do in order to close down those vulnerabilities. What we do as part of this service is that we will consult that report into a summary version, which helps them understand both the vulnerability to the application and what can happen to close that down. Now, around about 70 odd of the vulnerabilities that are found normally can be closed through configuration of ASM. and that's a message obviously that we can get back to the customer in the report. Valuable for us to do that. Of the 30%, probably 25% of that can be closed down with some more detailed configuration on the end device itself, or possibly with iRules, and that can be included in the report. Remaining 5%, we may find that actually the F5 devices don't have an option to close down, but the customer therefore then knows their risk probably is because they can fix up to 95% of their vulnerabilities and know what they need to do, probably within the application, in order to close down the remaining 5% of vulnerabilities. It's very important to a customer, particularly in today's security-aware environment, looking to minimise the risk they have, the impact that the security attacks have within their business. So it's a pretty valuable service. It's a pretty powerful service. The customers can also download a version, which is a closed-down version of the actual vulnerability tool from the WAT or SIG sites. So if you access their pages, the customers can download and just take a look at the vulnerability scanning tool. It doesn't have the full list of vulnerabilities, but it gives them a sign of what they can expect, and they can see, and then they can pursue the full service with us from forward. So that's a pretty interesting service from the security side. And you will see more and more package type services coming out for security in the next that are coming through. One of the other areas that we've been looking at recently in terms of future services and services we're close to releasing something called solution definition workshops. So they've been put together to help our customers the scope and the activities and the final solution design for anything within their network. The example we're using right now are DNS enforcement. If you're in the service provider, DDoS attacks, we've got work taking place on orchestration, also, and these workshops will work. It's a technical workshop, not a sales workshop. It's not a pitch. It is shall we say, a proper technical workshop where ideas are exchanged. A lot of whiteboarding takes place. It's very interactive and facilitated workshop. So I will workshop through process, and it will be attended by yourselves or your technical expert resources in terms of a system engineer, for example, solution architect, our own solution architects and FSEs, a consultant, and the idea is that they work with the customer to understand the existing architecture, the current architecture, how it performs, where its weakness may be, where the customer wants to move forward and migrate towards in a new architecture. It will look at the constraints and limitations that a customer has, in just what the check would need to look like for the future, and what requirements may be, whether that be scale, growth, security, performance, capacity. It's all considered, and the purpose of the workshop is to influence and persuade the customer to head to an F5 solution architecture. It's not the output from the workshop is not an F5 presentation. The output is owned by the customer themselves, because that's more powerful in terms of getting up the customer organisation in terms of pursuing an F5 solution. It's intended really to help customers narrow down the potential solutions they have, to overcome any objections or any fears that a customer may have about F5 solution. They understand what the capabilities are and what they could potentially architect to their future solutions. So again, it's a pretty powerful of influencing customers towards purchasing F5 solutions. It's of great interest to our sales teams, because you can directly see why this would help them sell more avoid us into a competitive tender situation if the customer chooses to pursue an exclusive agreement F5. So it's not only pre-sales, but it also gives the customer an insight as to what their requirements may be. Now, this is part of the PS package, and the reason that this is priced from a PS perspective is that, or you could argue this is pre-sales work. Actually, the output for the customer is actually their IP. So the architectures, the requirements list, they could choose to go and take away and not engage with us. So they could take it in an RFP, for example. They could even take it to one of our competitors and say, use your version of what you think your architecture could be. And because of that, we place on the service itself. And also, for those of you who are involved in sort of these kinds of assessment, these kinds of workshop activities, I know that unless value is placed on that activity, actually getting the customer to engage and getting the right level of resources to actually take part can be quite challenging. So if you give it for free, so obviously you place a price on to try and run the risk of getting the wrong people in the workshop. So those are out there today. It's not yet on the price list. It's in pilot mode, but we thought we'd mention to you because it is coming, and you see opportunities then to do something like this. Then you're aware that this is coming. You may want to talk to your channel manager in F5 to see whether you may want to take part in one of the pilot exercises. So feel free to make contact with the team on that from that perspective. Okay, so I want to move on and move away from examples of some of the packages. Hopefully, it's given you kind of a taste of the diversity and spread of the sorts of PS packages we have within our portfolio for you guys to use in the channels. The other thing that I just wanted to touch on, and you may have seen this already, you may be in discussion with your channel here about this already, the Guardian program. So the Guardian program has been put in place to help differentiate channel partners in the kit, and it's really around being seen as one of the best in class to F5 and help promote both of them together, and for when customers talk to us about using to perform work within their business, then it's something you can use to help the customer make the decision as to which partner they can be using. So it's really about ensure that that the customers are aware of the expertise that our partners have and our channels have, and a qualification criteria to get you on that Guardian program, which is really focused on the capability and the number of resources you have that are delivering services, and some of those services that I've mentioned previously in this webcast. So you can see there's no fees to join. There's no markets associated, but there are some KPIs in terms of meeting requirements to stay in the program on an annual perspective. Those KPIs really around the number of engagements you've had, the number of relations, the number of engineers you maintain at the correct level of expertise. So shouldn't be too much of an issue from your perspective. It really should be problems as usual for many of you out there. So, but it gives you an advantage, and it's designed to be a service that gives you guys an advantage out in the marketplace. Of course, our Guardian partners will be made aware in advance of the packages that we're developing and pushing to the market, such that they are ready to do this when they're launched, and you're given early access to training and education around our products and services portfolios when they're released also. So it's centered, as I said, on giving you guys an advantage out in the marketplace. If you want more information about the, then I'd advise you to make contact with your channel services manager and move forward from there. It's going to be a pretty important thing over the next few years for us. And finally, really is how to engage us. So as I've mentioned already, you do have your services partners in EMEA. You can contact. You can all the SKUs that we work within our portfolio in consult services have a very similar SKU, so you can find them fairly easily. They're in the some price guides section, service section, so you can find those. If you need to have more information, you can either reach out to the sales manager or the channel manager in your territory. We've listed the sales managers on this particular slide, or you can send an email into the PS email ID that I put onto that. So I've given you an introduction really to our PS packages and what they're about, why we've put them together, the kinds of services we have. And if you want to have a more detailed conversation, if you'd like a more detailed presentation either on the portfolio or any specific services, then by all means let us know. We'd be more than happy to do so. If you'd like us to put something together for a wider audience within your own organisation, then again, please let us know. Happy to do that. If you need any support talking to customers in terms of positioning, if you want to perform any service portfolio mapping exercises to see where our services either overlap or whether there's gaps that between us can be filled in terms of our portfolio, so that we have the strongest possible portfolios to go out to talk to our customers about. Again, please contact with us. We're more than happy to do that well. Now I'm quite happy to answer questions. I'll stop sharing my desktop so I can actually see if there are any. Not you, and if you'd like to.
Yeah, through no additional questions through on the portal. So thanks for that. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for everyone for joining the call. Again, this call has been recorded for your future reference, and I'll send through a link when this is available to view again. And again, if you've got any further questions, contact your service sales manager in your territory. Email EMEAPS@f5.com, or reach out to myself or Paul directly, and we'll make sure that all your questions are answered. So with that, I'll close the call, and thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks a lot.